This is Tech Browns on Tech Build Africa. Today we're about to see innovation, Africa's innovation from the perspective of a woman. Isn't that interesting? And to do justice to this very topic, I have a very interesting personality here with me in the studio. Just yesterday, we celebrated the International Girls Child Day, and I would say it's not a coincidence or something that today we are talking about the African woman's perspective when it comes to innovation in Africa. Like I said before, women have a lot to offer, and we wouldn't see that value if we don't build supportive ecosystems, if we don't have that inclusiveness in our ecosystem. And that is what we are clamoring for. So in all of this, Africa's innovation in a woman's perspective, it's actually a thought-provoking discussion. And yes, we're going to do justice to that. And we'll do our best to ensure that you have the best insight and everything you need to know, the best stories and everything. Yeah, back to you, Grace. So we'd love to know a little bit about you, just up and close. Who is Grace and where are you seeing adding value?
My name is Grace Oluchi, as Emmanuel said. Grace Oluchi, Mba, for those who want 3 names. Okay. I think I have about 11 years experience in the development space, 11 or so, 11, 12, I've lost count. In the development space, I've been doing work across the continent, sub-Saharan Africa, I think across the continent. My programs, I've mostly co-created impact programs for youth, for underserved communities. I have a deep passion for underserved communities and for women. I think some of my programs have been able to reach and impact plus 10,000 people. I think, so currently, if you want to know about my work currently, there's Creative Space, which we are in. And we've created this space for digital creatives like yourself and the work you're doing with Tech Build. There is Climate Action Africa, in which we're also trying to support and add our voice to the climate action conversation, especially in building resilient communities for Africa. There is Growth for Her, which is under Creative Spaces as well. There's Build Media Africa, of which Tech Build is one of the arms within which we do work. And yes, so that's me. If you want certificates, I can give you that, but I don't think that's necessary for the conversation.
Maybe, do we have to go and verify?
Yeah, you can go verify. But yes, let's go.
All right, thank you very much, Grace. So I will just give us an anchor of our discussion, how we're going to discuss the key talking points of our conversation. So we'll look at celebrating a woman's impact in the ecosystem. We'll also be sharing the innovative stories of women, exemplary ones for that matter, and also addressing the challenges that we are having, challenges like the funding gap that we've been talking about, which is a popular concern, and creating inclusive ecosystem. Also, we'll be looking at the STEM education and how a girl child can always leverage STEM education in tech to scale up whatever they're doing. And then lastly, the women in the creative economy. So, I mean, it's really interesting. So you see that we have a lot lined up to actually discuss today. So let's go in straight to the question rounds and see what Grace has for us today. Where do we stand currently with regards to women inclusion in Africa's innovation ecosystem?
Firstly, when we start to talk about this, I want to take a moment to say happy International Day for the Girl Child.
Yeah, happy International Day to the Girl Child.
Yeah, it's yesterday, but it's something we should celebrate every day. Every day is for the girl child.
There's a bias. Did I say bias? Okay, I think we have more Mother's Day than Father's Day.
We do, and again, I'll say this. I think for a while now, I've stopped celebrating a couple of things. Like even yesterday, which is International Day of the Girl Child, if you check any of my socials or whatever, I didn't post anything. Again, it could be tokenistic, which is a day that people want to come and talk about how they're helping women or how they'll help women and girls without necessarily doing anything. I know that there's a clamor for more men to be celebrated, and I mean we celebrate men every day. I'm not a toxic feminist. So I'm celebrating men every day. I really believe that society is built by really strong men and strong women, and we have to celebrate men as much as we celebrate women. I mean, if you want more Father's Days, you can create Abia Father's Day so that we celebrate fathers in Abia and Lagos Father's Days. But then
that's the topic for another day, right?
Yes, we celebrate you guys every day. To talk about where we currently stand in terms of women inclusion, I'd like to just say that first off, we have SDGs again. I'm in the development space, so I always like to speak from a point of the Sustainable Development Goals, which I think we will not attain by 2030.
2030 is already here.
We will not attain it, but I'm happy for the UN and everybody who sat down to co-create this. Funny story, speaking of women innovation, there were 2 women professors who actually created the SDGs. So the UN adopted it after these 2 women had actually sat down and co-created it and designed it and looked at, so they looked at the MDGs and they said the MDGs were not inclusive because the Millennium Developmental Goals focused on developing countries, least developing countries, and forgot about developed countries. But what they were saying was that in terms of sustainable development, for us to advance as a world, then everybody had to be included in the conversation, which means developed countries, what is your contribution to global development? And then developing countries, what do we need to do? So it became a global conversation. So that's a woman's perspective right there, making things fair and equitable for
I never knew, up to now, I never knew that women were really part of that, the coining of the SDGs.
No, it's actually 2 women professors, and I think there are some from some country in South America. I would confirm, I mean, we can check the data on that, but there were 2 women professors who actually looked at the MDGs, criticized it, and then created the SDGs that was then adopted by the UN, and then, a lot of people then came into that conversation.
That's quite interesting.
A lot today, they are not as celebrated as they should be, but that's women innovating and pushing for sustainability. Again, the poster child of what should be inclusive is the UN, or at least they've given us these goals that we should live up to. And there's SDG 5, which is gender equality, and there's SDG 10, which is reduced inequalities. And we look at the just ended UN General Assembly, UNGA, and there was a 90% gender gap in the UN General Assembly, and it's always been 90, 80, 70. We've never had like equal men and women in that conversation. And if the UN, that is almost the highest authority making body, and that should be guiding countries and communities on how to be inclusive, cannot be
doing
inclusive
that
in themselves, cannot have women in those conversations, it shows you where the world is generally. So that's where we really are. And in Africa, it's I know people like to demonize Africa a lot. We are almost trying. So we have countries in Africa that have attained gender parity in certain areas, like in governance. We have countries like Rwanda that almost have a 50-50 parliament, or at least they've met the quota of 35%. We've had more female presidents on the continent than in North America. North America's had none, actually. So as much as there's a lot of work to do in terms of systemic and cultural barriers and just the foundation within which we exist as people in society, I would say that there's a lot of work to do, but we also have to appreciate how far we've come. Thank you.
So I think it's about looking at the journey so far. If we can see that, okay, we've met significant steps, and then we can always evaluate and go back and say, okay, this is where we need to add up. This is where we're not getting it right. But for Africa, I think we're on the right pedestal to achieving women inclusion.
Not
in
by 2030,
but
hopefully we will, but I don't think 2030 is the target. Maybe within the African Union's Agenda 2063 for 2060, that gives us 37 more years, because that's 2060. So maybe by that time, but right now, 2030, yikes.
So speaking of the African Union, in a way to celebrate the Girls' Child Day, I think there were some awards for women who are innovating in the ecosystem, especially in tech and digital innovations. And I think I have some names here, like Susanna Farr, who is making education a co-creative journey for women, and Anne Nyaboke, who is enhancing access to literacy through digital apps. And we also have Amina Umohoza, who is empowering girls through e-counseling, and Anita and Wiwa, those are strange names for me, and she's breaking down space science for young people. So these are some women that are actually building something really, there's a different thing to be a founder and you're just being a founder to chase clouds, and then there is being a founder to actually bring solution to the problem that we're having, real life solutions. I think they were recognized by African Union, and I think
we do celebrate them. I mean, all these ladies you've mentioned are doing really, really phenomenal work. And we celebrate them, we applaud them. We want you to keep doing great work because it's only
And we need to go beyond celebrating to supporting. I think that's another thing.
Yes, that's
So it's very easy to celebrate and then backstage you're on your own.
in terms of celebration. Yes, we have to celebrate. Two things happen, and I don't think it's a conversation for either or. It's a conversation of we need to celebrate and we need to support. We need to celebrate because representation matters. It's important to have as many stories of successful women who are breaking barriers, who are just existing in their authenticity. And at the same time, we have to support them. I think everybody can pick their own struggle. People can decide that the only thing they want to do is celebrate, and another group of people can say the only thing we want to do is support. There's a lot of work to be done, really.
All right. Speaking on this, I'm very much aware that you are deep into the ecosystem. So can you share with us some of the key innovative projects by women? Let's see how we can identify some of these and maybe speak about them.
I don't know if I'm deep into the ecosystem.
You are.
But I mean, in terms of phenomenal women, just back home here, because we're in Nigeria, and I'm going to speak to a Nigerian context. I sincerely apologize. We have people like Ibijoke of Elect Her that is using technology, including they created a platform recently just after the general elections called Analytics that is helping them to get analysis of like voting and how the trends are going and all of that. But Elect Her really is using a lot of technology to increase women participation in politics in Nigeria and across Africa, really, which is really interesting to see. We have Biggie Vest, everybody knows her. She's done some amazing work. I don't really think that she's done work in financial inclusion, but she's done work in helping society, Nigerians in general, manage finances better. There's Dr. Ola Brown. I stand her. I love her. She's done amazing work with flying doctors. She's done amazing work even with her VC, supporting a lot of African entrepreneurs and also even women. We have, I mean, the list is long. There's Folake of Emergency Response Africa. I don't know if you've ever had an emergency and you need to call an ambulance in this country, but emergency response has made it really affordable. I think they are more affordable than even state-owned emergency services in Lagos. There's Auto Girl, Chichi, I call her Chichi. There's Auto Girl. She's part of even our Growth for Her program. She's using technology to increase women participation in the automobile sector. She's also built this really amazing platform for people to access cars for rent. And even if you have a car, you can like put it on there, helping people generate extra. I think
the automobile sector is even where we don't have much women in that space.
Yes, and she's doing that. And she's recently even started a new program to help young girls get trained to drive. And then she can hire you to be like a driver with her company. Because what Auto Girl does really is they connect, if you want to rent a car, want to rent a boat, private jets, everything, she has it. So she can train you and then you be a driver in her service, which means somebody comes to rent a car. So that's like access to employment and encouraging more women. And Nigeria is really low. If you go to Tanzania, go to Kenya, Uganda, you'd almost definitely see like a female driver. But in Nigeria, so it's like public transport female driver in Nigeria is really...
Speaking of female drivers in Nigeria, in 100 buses, you see 2 women max that are driving in Nigeria actively. Anytime I maybe on Uber or Bolt, you hardly see a woman. Okay, the last time I and my friend wanted to order a ride and then a woman's name pop up, we're like, wow, this is interesting. But it shouldn't be so. Because you don't get to have that.
Yes. I mean, so she's trying to do amazing work there in that space as well, which I really applaud. And at Creative Space as well, we're trying to support her in any way that we can. There's Irene Agu, and I think you know her. You've interviewed her.
Yeah, I know
on the
Irene.
show.
Yeah.
She has Revi. She has that is travel. She's helping a lot of young women, most especially, and youth travel safely across the continent and beyond. You can travel on a budget through her platform, and you feel safe. She's also doing some amazing work with Irene Leo, making marketing accessible for many businesses. And that's me, but...
Yeah, I was waiting for that. I wanted to help you. At the end of the long list, I was like, okay, let me mention Grace Oluchi.
And with your... And I think I'm doing amazing work as well, but I'll allow you guys to judge, but I think I'm doing well.
Yeah, speaking of women in innovation, yeah, I think I've spoken with a couple of them too. You've mentioned Irene, and I think Blessing Abeng was on Tech Rounds too. Yeah, she's doing a good work too.
And even the girl you interviewed last week, one necker,
Cynthia, yeah, EdTech, yeah. So I think these women are just there. So we just need to do our best to both, like you said, celebrate and support them in whatever they're doing.
Support. I think it comes down to the 3 R's, and I'm just going to mention this. I'm sorry if I'm eating into our time. Rights, representation, and resources. Those are the 3 fundamental R's that ask rights. Do women have rights in different sectors, even as women businesses? And if they have rights on paper, are those rights being accorded to them? Like their rights to access markets, their rights to access finance, their rights to be safe and do their business in safe environment. Right, you need to think of resources. Are you making available resources for them? And even the resources, so for example, the rights, you want to make available finance, and women need collateral. Most times the strongest form of collateral is land and property, but then in some countries women don't have rights to buy own land. So everything is interconnected. And then representation. Are women represented in policy making? Are women represented in government? Are women represented in the stories that we tell? Which is why celebration is important, because it helps us bring up that representation power between men and women.
Yeah, interesting. So if I may ask, did you come up with this model?
No. I didn't. I think it was first mentioned by, I think, one of these Nordic European countries, one of their vice presidents or whatever. It's a very old model, actually.
Yeah,
she mentioned it.
It's all encompassing.
Yes, she mentioned it in one of her speeches, and then it was then adopted by UN Women, and it's really just, when you listen to it and then you understand, right?
Yeah, I think that's a key takeaway from this session. I'm sure some person might be hearing it for the first time, and I'll just call that an R cube, if I'm permitted.
Yes,
R cube.
Yeah.
It sounds like a mnemonic for easy. Yeah. All right, so we've been able to look into some African women that are doing innovative stuff in the ecosystem and some of their product or innovation. So, what are some significant challenges that women innovators are facing? Women entrepreneurs are facing, and how have we been able to tackle some of these issues to this point?
In terms of challenges, one, and again, I know I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, and I know that some people will come for me when I say this. I work in social inclusion, so my first take is always, how do we design for everybody? And I'll give you an example. When we launched our program Techamaka, it was my first time in Lagos, 2021, and I did not expect that, like, it's Lagos. Everything you read about Lagos, people are the
developed
tech, whatever, you are
tech
the
hub
startup of Africa, kiniko. And I've become very Nigerian now. You just hear me, I said my kiniko. Sorry. And we went to some of these communities in Lagos to empower girls with digital literacy. It was more of like a breadth program where we just wanted them to have like some technology appreciation. When we went there, we discovered that in some of these communities, even boys do not know computer and have not seen computer before, and they too were shocked by everything, which meant that we needed to come back and rethink the design of our program to include boys, to include girls, and to include even persons with disabilities in underserved communities.
Right.
So in this conversation, which is why when people attack feminism, I have a problem with it, but that's a conversation for another podcast and another audience.
Another battleground.
Yes. It involves designing for all. And I would like to say that every African innovator and every African entrepreneur faces challenges, because we're on a continent that really has a bad rep for not doing very well. And it's not just about bad rep for bad rep. We are not doing well as a continent. As much as we want to celebrate our wins, we must also acknowledge the fact that we have a long way to go as a continent. But then when it comes specifically to women, challenges that I would like to highlight, for example, the first thing I'm going to talk about is harassment.
Okay.
Women are harassed in all settings. Personally, sometimes I hate going for conferences, or I hate going for certain meetings. Like, thank God for COVID and Zoom, because now it's reduced like my physical interaction in a lot of male-dominated spaces. Because you go there and somebody wants to toast you, you don't have to. I'm just here to talk about my business. You're harassing me. You go somewhere and somebody starts making inappropriate comments about your body, about it's unwarranted. Women lack enough safe spaces to do business. That's the first thing I want to talk about. There's a lack of confidence on our part as women. Which I think stems from society and culture and all the things, but a lot of things are changing in that area. There's access to market, which is a challenge. Just because, again, we're talking about the AFCTA and moving goods across border, women going to negotiate with custom officers. It's even safe women carrying goods across borders. I remember when my mom used to do trade back in the day, where she would buy goods in Nigeria. She used to plait money in her hair. The roads used to be unsafe. So, I mean, a guy is worried that they are going to rob him. A woman is worried that they may rob her and rape her. Do you understand? Like, it's double. Access to market is a problem. Access to finance is a problem. The African Development Bank has said there's like a $42 billion gender financing gap in Africa, which means that for almost every 10 men that access finance, probably only 2 to 3 women will access finance, and then it's not even the same quantity. I would add, it's not the same quantity, because we have a lot of men. You see them, they'll easily go and raise like 200 million. There's generally a lot of trust around men than there is around women. There's lack of public trust in women, especially when it comes to accessing finance. Even though the data and the statistics have shown that women are better money managers than men. There's still that general lack of trust. So there's access to finance. There's the challenge of balancing work and family responsibility.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We all know that the emotional labor of managing a home falls on women.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's a woman's responsibility to take care of the children, to cook, to clean, and all of that. And so it becomes increasingly, It becomes increasingly difficult for them to balance that.
A burden, so to say.
Yeah. I don't really want to call it a burden, because I'm a Christian, and in terms of who we are, at our core, we are family. God created Adam, he created Eve, go into the world and procreate. We love that verse.
Yeah.
We are supposed to have family. Family is essential for society. I think because we have a lot of broken families is the problem why we have a lot of dysfunctional youth and a lot of dysfunctional adults who now... Sorry, I can't curse. This is who now mess up our government, and Africa is the way it is. So family is very important. So it's not a burden. We should have to have a balanced home.
No, there is this ideology under sociology that in every society, if you want to make a society to be better, you start from the family.
Definitely. It's not even a question of should be. You must start with the family. If children grow up in loving and enabling environments, they'll grow up to be functional adults, which means we'll not have a lot of the problems that we have today. They'll be kind, they'll be loving, they'll be compassionate, and therefore we need to balance that in the home. And because that labor now falls a lot on women, they are unable to contribute as well to society. We want not contribute to society, because homemaking in itself is contributing to society. Raising functional children is contributing to society. What I like to say is women who decide to pursue business, when that burden falls on them solely, it is hard for them to do both. So we need more balance. A lot of men, we need you to help us not help, because it is also your responsibility.
Yeah. So it's a partnership. It's a partnership.
Men need to do better in the home front. There needs to be that balance, and we need to understand that it takes a village.
I think that awareness has really helped a lot. I think some men are trying to retract and maybe embrace the fact that they also have to help cater for the homes.
Yes, it's not help. You have to.
Okay, I called help again.
Yes, we need to. That's the problem as well in the language.
But both genders have to help each other.
By working together to see that we have a balanced and functional home, and when we have children, that we don't outsource parenting to nannies and what have you, and then we end up with very dysfunctional children, and then you start saying, I don't know what happened to this child. You know what happened to this child. You were an absent parent, and when you were around, you were on your phone, you were abusive. Conversation for another day, so we move on. But that's one of the challenges that women face.
Ambition.
Yes. And there's lack of mentorship. And I've spoken to lack of safe spaces. There's also networking and representation that I've spoken to earlier. And there's lots of institutional and cultural barriers that women face. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That was very elaborate. Leaning back on impact and contribution, I want to put you on the spotlight. I want to put you on the spotlight now. So I want a more relatable story, a more personal story about innovation journey of women for yourself. How has it been? What would you say it's been if you're going to like summarize your story? Because I'm trying to look at the innovation, Africa's innovation from a woman's perspective. And for now, you're my woman. I don't know how to, okay, for now, you are the woman. Okay. So your story, your innovation journey, what has it been like, especially in Africa, and in terms of support, in terms of ambition, in terms of inclusion, in terms of resources? I mean, you mentioned something about the 3 hours and everything.
What we discussed earlier when we started was, I don't think I can speak for all women,
Okay.
but I can speak for myself. And I think that, in all honesty, I've had a certain level of privilege. And what you do with your privilege is you help people who don't have the same privilege have that privilege. Okay. So my innovation journey has always been around development, not just for the sake of it, but just because I wanted to co-create a better Africa. I'm very Pan-African. I'm very Afrocentric. I will live and die on this continent. Like, there's no japa.
No japa for you.
There's no japa. You know, if you see me one day saying I'm japa, please.
I think it was Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala that said something about that. There's no harm in jackpaing, but people should begin to look at Japa and Kappa. And what does that mean? Japa means when you go out of the country, you should also think about how to better your country from wherever you are. Exactly. Because I know I've been in talks with a couple of African innovators who are abroad, but they're building products that are solving problems in this ecosystem.
So there's no Japa for me. I'll probably just migrate within the continent, move to different countries within the continent to do work. I've been supported both by men and women. And I would say this here for the record, I don't know who your female friends are, but maybe you need to change them, because this thing that women support women is very true in my life. I am the manifestation of women supporting women. I'm being very serious, because a lot of women have supported me on my journey. This whole we rise by lifting others up, it has happened through the women that I have known in my circle, women friends, just women in the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem. Okay. Women who are sending you funding opportunities, women who are helping you co-create your programs, women who are just listening to say, okay, I think we should do this like this, giving you insights, women who have mentored me. I don't even think I am a male mentor. I have mostly women mentors.
That's good to know, against the whole ideology that women supporting women, and we don't ever get to see women supporting women.
No. Women,
there are antics to that.
I don't know about you people. Let's go and find your friends. Whoever, let your friends circle and your circle. But women have really supported me. I'm saying this. This does not mean that I've not had negative experiences with women. I've had women as well who have come and burnt me. But at the same time, I've had a lot of women who have supported me. I cannot fault anybody on that. My work has been successful as a result of collaboration.
Okay.
The program I launched a program in 2020, a Femme 360 capacity building program for women in Francophone Africa that were in the middle of the pandemic and did not know what to do with their businesses. We did that program, the capacity building arm of the program, and we're able to reach 5,000 women across 25 to 27 different African countries. And we did that because of collaboration, because I got on a call and I called my friend Kene and I said, Kene, I want to do this. Can you send me a list of people I can call? And she sent me a list. And for like a month, every day, I was calling people from different communities. How can we co-create this together? And a group of people formed an advisory. We co-created and co-designed the curriculum and said, this is what women in my community would like to benefit from. And we did that. And then they mobilized and marketed. I think we did that with very little budget.
Interesting.
But we're able to reach so many people. Even right now with Growth for Her, it is still the product of co-creation. My work has mainly been from collaboration. I don't think I have any success that is as a result of to say I did this alone. I'm not self-made. I will never be self-made. My work, my success, my journey is a lot of women and a lot of men just coming to the table to add their own salt, their own maggi, and their own pepper into
Yeah, that really struck me, the element of collaboration. I think Africa is really underestimating the power of collaboration from the continental perspective. Imagine if we have sort of collaboration we're having in Europe from currency and trading and then building innovation. It would be very, very much impressive, because if you look at Africa in trade and currency, you see that we don't have that collective synergy. And I mean, there should be a unifying currency that help. Seriously, there should be, but we are too apart. I feel that we are too apart as a continent.
True. And because I am also a policy and a politics and a Pan-African, but Nkrumah is my inspiration. I feel like if I had to channel an alter ego to have the African conversation, it would be to channel Kwame Nkrumah.
Okay.
And about that, there's a lot of the invisible hand on Africa. We know what that is.
Yeah.
That stops Africa from having this conversation.
Did you hear the speech from Professor Lumumba
at the platform?
Yeah.
I was there live.
Okay. You were there?
I was there in person. So, yes. I was there in person. Yes, Africa would be better with collaboration. And Kwame Nkrumah shouted this in the 60s. From the 58s to the 60s, he shouted that Africa needed to be one. Gaddafi shouted it as well, that we needed to be one to attain this level of development that we want to. And I mean, Europe has unified and they are stronger, and they keep telling us that we cannot do it. And quite honestly, if you look at a lot of African constitutions, I've recently been restudying the constitution of Cameroon and Nigeria and a few other countries. In almost the first paragraph, you would hear something there about supporting our African brothers and sisters, which means that inherently in our core, we want to be Pan-African.
Yeah.
We want to be communal. But now there are just so many nuances.
Pushing us aside.
There's a lot of convolution around it. We're trying to achieve that with the AfCFTA and African Continental Free Trade Agreements and area. We're trying to achieve that with a lot of other things, but there's still some real challenges on the ground. But I feel that we have to give ourselves some credit as well.
Okay.
Because as much as we are harsh to judge Africa, Africa is a very young continent. The Cyber Safe Foundation by Confidence Tably, I think that's the name. Confidence, at least I know her first name, Confidence. Mm-hmm. She's doing amazing work getting a lot of girls into cybersecurity across the continent. There's eSkills for Girls that has a couple of programs across the continent as well through different partners. There's the Equals Digital Fund by the World Wide Web Foundation and the G20. So they're doing a lot of amazing work there as well. There is even Techamaka, our program that we run. We currently don't have any sessions, but keep your eyes on the Creative Space pages and website. When we do launch another cohort, you'll be informed of that. There is PESA Academy by PESA Labs that is being run now by our very own Mui Joseph, that is going to be doing a lot of work training young Africans, especially women, in artificial intelligence. There is university that also has like a gender lens to it. There's so many programs, like some of them, even though there's no gender specification
attached to it, yeah.
I encourage a lot of women to participate in those programs. There's Udemy.
Yeah.
There's Coursera. For those, again, I only specify that these are for those that have access to the infrastructure. Because if you don't have access to infrastructure, you cannot, a mobile phone, a laptop is the infrastructure. I'm talking about your data. You cannot use Udemy, you cannot use Coursera. So those that have access to it, don't waste the opportunity, go there. There are a lot of free courses. There's even C3 web school online where you can learn to code for free. There's so many resources out there, and there's so many amazing people doing really great.
So looking into the future, what significant changes do you see that will ensure that we have inclusive ecosystems and support for women?
It's not necessarily that we do not have great policies at the moment. We have a lot of policies, but we need to add a gender lens to it. Our budgets need to be gender-centric from a government level. If you don't know what it means for your budget to be gender-centric, please go and Google it. There needs to be a lot of systemic changes, again, around our policy making, even around, because like Julius, I think it's Julius from Julius Malema, in South Africa, and he said we need to stop saying protect women, protect women. We need to stop attacking women, and then women will not need to be protected. So if the world was equitable, then nobody would need to shout. Don't exclude persons with disabilities. Don't exclude people on the basis of race, gender, ethnicity, religion, ability. Do not do that, and then we will not need to be shouting. I want to look into the camera and say, please give us money. And don't give us token money, because a lot of money that comes to women, you want to give us $1,000, $500, $5,000. No. Give us the kind of money you give to WeWork founder, even after a failed company. But invest in women, fund us, give us good money. God bless you.
I like the fact that you were very intentional about this aspect.
Give women money.
Yeah.
Give women money to do business. Like, I could bring out my Igbo to talk about this. You need to give women money. I'm being serious. You need to fund women.
Women innovations need to be funded.
In women. And I'm not talking tokenistic investment where you say, oh, we're having a genderless, I go and give women $5,000. No. If you're gonna give a man who has failed over and over in business 350 million, you can give me that same money. Give women money. Please, I have so many businesses. I can send you an investor deck if you so please. Send my ask for Emmanuel my email and let's talk. Please invest in me. Invest in women.